Hello, welcome to the official Hacks podcast from Max and Pineapple Street Studios. I'm Lucia Aniello, creator, showrunner, executive producer, writer, and director, exhausting, of Hacks. Joining me are the other brilliant Hacks creators, Jen Statsky and Paul W. Downs.
Hi there, I'm Paul.
Hi, I'm Jen.
And we're back with the third season of Hacks. On this podcast, we'll be talking about every episode together. And over the course of the season, we'll be joined by some of our amazing cast and crew. Today, we're joined by Pat Regan. Pat's one of our fantastic, beautiful writers, and he has a fun scene in this episode that we'll talk about. But first, we have a very special guest, Deborah Vance herself, Jean Smart. Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Happy
to
see
have
as always.
you.
Toot, toot. Now,
Yeah, we need a soundboard. We got to have more sound effects.
Now, this is your official spoiler warning. If you haven't watched the season 3 premiere, go back and watch it immediately. Okay, let's get into the episode. It's called Just for Laughs. It was written by Paul, Jen, and myself, and I directed it for fun.
How you doing? Good. Real good. Really good. So, doing good, yeah. You look well? Thanks. And you look, the same. That's the goal.
In this episode of season 3 in the premiere, it's a year later. Deborah and Ava have not been in each other's lives. We drop back into their lives to see what they've been up to. And then they run into each other at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal.
That's right.
Montreal. Jean, getting back into Deborah's shoes. How does it feel? Her heels. How did it feel?
It was so great. After 10 months? We shot for 5 days, I think, within that 10 months.
Oh my
Yeah,
I
God.
know.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe
We
it.
should give our listeners the timeline, which is that season 3 began being shot in November 2022, and we finished in January 2024.
But then again, it's like getting on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was even just in the beginning from like season 1, the first couple episodes that we shot, or, then jumping into season 3, like, did you ever feel like you were figuring her out as you were doing Deborah Vance, or did you always kind of feel like I know exactly who she is? Because that's how it reads on screen to me, or even it was on set. It was kind of like, this is who she is immediately. Did you feel that way, or did you feel like there was a learning curve?
I kind of did feel that way. It just was something. As soon as I read the script, I could hear her in my head, and luckily you guys agreed with my take on her. It's just so much fun, and I just love playing her so much that. It just is. It's just still so much fun. And the thing that I love is the fact that you guys have been able to maintain that dynamic between Deborah and Ava, because that's what I was afraid we would lose. Because I knew that was a lot of the reason people loved the show was that relationship. And I thought, how's it going to change once they get to know each other really well, and once they've been
Right.
through some ups and downs? But I think it still really works.
I do too.
I think it works actually better
I do
because
too.
there's so much of the history now.
Kind of like a
and there's so-
dysfunctional marriage.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah, there's history and there's a shorthand and there's
Yeah.
inside jokes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You think that they're going to serve each other divorce papers, but they just don't.
Yeah.
No.
We all know those couples, right? Where you're like, that can't last. But then they're like, I guess they're in love. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's passionate. It's passionate.
It is passionate.
But also too, when you watch, especially with a comedy, is that's one of the advantages of it running for a while, is that the audience then is a little bit ahead of you. They can kind of see some of the jokes coming. They see the banana peel on the stairwell, and they love it. They love having that little inside thing. Thinking, oh no, she didn't just say that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's gonna react this way or that way.
Yeah,
Right. That's
totally.
like sort of the trick of comedy, right? Is like give them something surprising, like surprise them with the punchline, but it's a familiar dynamic.
Yes.
It's
Right.
like you need to understand the dynamic and know the characters and love them. And the more you know them and love them, the funnier I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
me
it's
more.
scratching an
Give me
itch.
more. Yeah.
You're giving them the itch and then you scratch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is true. You have to figure out new ways to make it happen. Otherwise, it gets, expected. And I think that coming into season 3, especially because we had separated them in this kind of bittersweet way, we spent a lot of time thinking about how to get them back together in a way that felt different in a way, but also still familiar. And that was like, a big challenge of the season. Were you worried at the end of season 2?
Well, worried in the sense that, I was pretty sure we'd be back for season
Well,
3.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried like that.
You weren't worried like Hannah either, who thought that she was fired.
No.
You weren't worried
I
in that
felt
way.
so bad for her.
I know.
She was all teary and thought she was being canned. Are you serious?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I mean, we should clue our dear listeners in. She gave you a call first, right? After she had read the finale?
Yeah, she was worried.
Yeah.
I thought, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And then she called us worried.
Yeah.
It didn't really help that you were like,
Am I fired?
Took her so long to even-
sad. Yeah.
We were like, no, no, dear.
I said, you'll know when I fire you.
oh my God. Because Paul and Lucia will say, no, you're not. We will absolutely not let it happen. No matter how you cross Jen, we're going to keep you around.
Yeah.
No, but I thought the way you guys got them back together was perfect because it was that weirdness of running into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you could see Deborah trying to kind of be diplomatic as well as she can. And Ava's trying to fish for, remarks about the writers and all the info. And she's just not taking the bait.
Deborah's just so good at going cold. Like she can
Yes.
do it really. She has a lot of practice doing it.
Yeah.
And Ava, her emotions are on the surface when it comes to Deborah, certainly.
But as soon as they get to start insulting each other, then they're back on home turf.
I look well. You got nothing on my new haircut? You're not gonna say I look like a little page boy or something?
No, I just thought maybe you'd put a child's wig on backwards.
There we go. Thank you.
Can I start on the blazer now?
Yeah, I know the moment where Deborah says, do you want to stay for one more drink? I'm like, that's the moment where actually that's the biggest olive branch ever for Deborah, which is Deborah saying, I'd like to hang out a little longer, you know? And,
right.
And Ava just absolutely falls on her knees for the girl.
Well, there isn't anybody else in Deborah's life who kind of feeds that same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone said that dress was perfect, and that dress is not.
I don't get it.
But she doesn't have many close people in her life. And so, I think even though it's obvious that Ava really missed Deborah, we have to assume that Deborah missed Ava too.
Oh, sure. Sure, absolutely.
And maybe, the longing was stronger because it was such a great year for Deborah, because she had a real comeback. She's on a career high, like she hasn't been for a long time.
Yeah.
You've had such a year since that special came out. What's next? Nobel Peace Prize?
That's such an ugly medal.
Gotta tell you, loved the Super Bowl commercial.
Oh, wasn't that fun? And I actually do love Tostitos scoops.
I do love that delivery too, Gene.
Oh, it's so good.
And I actually do love Tostitos scoops. It's so
Paul, I thought you
funny.
were going to say, I actually do love, and I do love Tostitos scoops.
Don't know that I've even had them is the truth.
Okay, I love Tostitos
They're
scoops.
great
Okay.
because you get a nice proportion
Yeah,
of guacamole or whatever
That-
you're
yeah.
dipping
It's a scoop.
into.
Yeah.
Listen, this podcast is not supported by Tostitos, but
No,
we'll take
but
the
I am
ad
hoping
money.
there will be a case arriving at my door after that episode.
That's a
airs,
great point.
Yeah,
All right.
okay,
yeah.
Big Tostitos, where are you?
If the CMO of Tostitos is listening.
And we know you are, sir.
We don't know who all our listeners are. We know Barbara Streisand is a huge fan, always on the podcast, always listening, one of the first to download because they have her IP.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
VPN. I don't know what the
Yeah,
word is.
yeah.
I don't do the back end stuff, guys. I do the in front of the mic. But anyway, hey, Barb. So, Gene, we don't want this to end. We really want to hang
this
more.
Was fun.
Don't
This was
go!
fun. But you're going to be back. You're going to be back on the pod. So,
I will be back on the pod.
So get ready, dear listener.
This was just
Um,
a tease.
that's
We've got
right.
more Gene coming.
That's right. So thank you. And we'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right.
I would like to say hello to our guest, Pat Regan, better known to viewers of this episode as Prion the Bellhop, who is also a writer, a beloved writer on Hacks.
Hi, Pat.
Hi,
Thank you all so much for
Pat.
having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming.
I'm so
Pleasure.
excited.
He's been a writer since season 1, since the origins,
Mhm.
and he continues to be.
Pat, I believe you started as a staff writer on Hacks, right?
I did. It was my first ever staff writing job.
We were all huge fans of Pat's.
Yes.
His stand-up. We read a script of yours. We loved it.
Oof,
we
so
said,
funny.
Thank you so much.
we have to have him. We have to have him in the room. And you've been there since season 1, and you're a delight and a
And we
friend.
didn't know you personally.
Yeah.
We didn't
I
know you
know.
personally.
And you are a delight.
Well, Hacks was my first show I ever wrote for. And I do
Shocking.
think it's still the only show I've written for that's like come out and been on television. I wanted to write for TV for so long, and it just is so rewarding. It's so lame to be like, oh, that was my pitch, but like, and this isn't even like a big part of the episode, but like when Damien's trying to get Jean's dress clothes and he can't, and he's like, oh, did you have seltzer because it bloats you? I just remember like that. I was trying on a very famous person's jeans and they weren't fitting, and the person kept asking me if I had seltzer because potentially that could affect if clothes would fit properly.
And it ended up in the final cut.
It ended up in the final cut. There's something so satisfying about that.
Did you drink any seltzer today? Because I read on this website one time that seltzer can make you bloat, and it definitely be the seltzer.
It was also funny because when I started season 3 like a week late because I was at actual JFL.
Oh, right.
So it was really funny to like see those places and like remember that.
Do you think it was a good depiction of the festival?
Definitely. But like I think that it did feel very much like the festival, especially that bar area where everyone talks. And like I didn't make any of the panel shows. But I think that it seemed like those types of things were happening. Yeah.
Oh my God! Could you have driven any slower? We missed 3 shows already.
Yeah, well, that was harrowing. Why would you rent a $300,000 car in a new city with French road signs?
Because JFL is the comedy industry event of the year, Jimmy. Deborah's doing amazing. I want people to know we're doing amazing too. It's all about peacocking, baby.
Now, one thing that we did do is that time jump. And I guess, if people are wondering why, it just kind of felt like we wanted to have some growth for the characters outside of each other, and that could then potentially fuel what would happen if they do run back into each other.
Right.
And I think that was always part of the idea.
Yeah, we always knew that we were going to give them a little bit of time, also just so their careers could flourish and grow, get Ava in this new job, and it's already been happening, and she's been doing well, and Deborah's had a full year. Yeah, I don't think we debated doing the time jump at all, really.
No, the big question was how do they meet?
Yeah.
And what happens to start the thaw?
Yeah. That is what we refer to it as the thaw.
Right. And how to do it in like a satisfying way, because it is one of those things where it's like the show's about these two women's relationship, and we're very intentional about separating them at the end of season 2. So it's like that thing of like, we know they're going to come together, but how to do it in like a surprising way or like a satisfying or interesting way. It was like very tricky, I remember.
One moment I would like to talk about is the elevator scene, because it is the first time they actually see each other, Deborah and Ava, and have kind of an interaction that is a little bit, it's perfectly nice, but a little bit uncomfortable for Ava by the end of it.
Yeah. And that was something that there was a time, I think, we talked about that potentially being the final moment of episode 1.
That's right.
Right.
And do we leave people on that sort of cliffhanger of the door shut and we fade to black? Or I guess we cut to black. But we decided, no, we wanted to actually get them together and get some of the grist going. But I think that was a topic of conversation.
Yes,
for a
we
while.
talked about that. We also talked about how overt to be with their interaction in terms of like, do you want to know exactly what's going on? Do you want to just sense that something's off between them? That was like a lot of back and forth about that in the writing process, I remember.
Because we reveal only later in the episode that they have not only not been in contact, but Deborah has cut Ava off. She's not responded to texts and has been really icy.
Yes.
So that was something that you slowly uncovered.
Yes, we wanted to like
watched.
kind of lay breadcrumbs of, oh, they haven't spoken, something's off, but not explicitly say it. But we did many times go back and forth about should we be more explicit? Should just should Ruby say it? Should Jimmy say it? But ultimately, we said, our audience, they're smart. They'll be along for the ride.
I was busy.
Yeah, I've been busy too. That's not an excuse to just never respond, especially to objectively funny memes.
Oh, you mean the yellow guy in the bush?
Oh my God, it's Homer Simpson. Show some respect.
Look, I apologize for some unanswered texts, but that was kind of the whole point. You going out on your own, and it worked. I mean, you're changing the world with laughter.
Okay, but why did you have to cut me out cold turkey? To teach me some kind of a lesson? What are you, Mr. Miyagi, and I'm the Karate Kid?
This was the season premiere that was the most discussed in the room because season 1, we had already written the pilot. Season 2, I think we came into the writer's room having already written the first couple.
Right, the three of us had like written the first 3. So when we started the season 2 room, those were broken and written. So yeah, this was the most like
the whole room really digging in on a premiere, which we needed because like we knew we wanted to get them back together, and we knew but it really required a lot of POVs and pitches and
It's
thoughts.
funny. I was just thinking like, this premiere was so much trickier. And I was like, I wonder why. And then I was like, oh, right, because usually we come in and like it's already written.
Yeah, the work's been done.
Yeah.
Because we did know going in, just to clue in our dear listeners, we did know what the trajectory of the season would be, like what the quest would be, but we didn't know the details of their reunion.
Yeah, that
which was really hard.
Yeah. People are obsessed with like, whenever you tell someone you write for TV, it's always like, so what happens? Like, you all write an episode? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Which characters do you write for?
So you write for the gay ones.
There's a lot.
I'm
so
like, yeah, all of them.
keep me busy.
But also, we all felt that this season, and this is a nice thing of having a show that people watch and are invested in, people kept, like, whenever they would bring it up, they'd also really want to guess how they would get back together.
Right. Well, that was pressure in the premiere, is like that thing of like, everyone knows this is going to happen. You still have to tell a story that's like surprising. How do you do that? We talked about that so much of like what feels like the right amount of time to keep them apart.
And we didn't actually have them fully get back together until the end of episode 2.
Yeah, but I'm glad we didn't do the elevator thing, because like the end on the elevator, because you do know they're going to interact.
And you want to see it. Yeah, it's almost too teasy.
Right, you'd feel like cheated maybe if you watched the whole first episode of Hacks and Deborah and Ava never interacted.
And I think it's like once you start seeing them interact, you know it's going to be slightly different. Like it's not going to, the way that they've left each other was so dramatic. And so to me, it's like, how are they interacting? What are they giving? What are they like revealing of each other or themselves, which is very little. And then that thaw that we continued to talk about, and we kept referring to it as like getting back into bed with each other. That's how we referred to it as we were talking. Yeah. And that is what it feels like. It feels like a chess match, like a seduction dance. There's something about it where they do want to still be with each other. They're not willing to admit it, but also Ava's angry. She's upset and her feelings are hurt. And I think that's something that we also wanted to do, is make sure that we didn't end season 2 with this big dramatic thing, then have them get back together in season 3 and have it be like, okay, and it's fine.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to make sure that the breakup and the way that they got back together is something that then will fuel the rest of their season. And I know we're only in episode 1 of this podcast, but it is not something that is now done with. It is something that will continue to be a part of their story and their relationship.
Right. It has to have consequences or else why do it?
And then it's schmuck bait.
Yeah.
Also, like, one thing that was, I thought, tricky was we had ended season 2 in this like decision by Deborah that, at least when we were talking about it, writing it, was very ambiguous, like had a couple different layers to it. And so there was an element of like, how was that received by the people watching it? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, right.
We were like, is this completely a kind thing from Deborah? Is this complicated from Deborah? Is she partly doing it because they're getting too emotionally close?
Yeah.
Right, because our writer's truth was always that it was, a mixed thing. That it's a kind, benevolent thing for her to let Ava free, but also at the same time, she's of course someone who true intimacy is scary to her because she's closed herself off for so long. So there's also the part of her that's pushing Ava away because of that, which is not necessarily so benevolent and kind of her. And so for us, it was like layered and had different shades to it, but I think some people maybe see that as like purely one thing, or it's interesting to see how it's been received by the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I don't know if it's worth talking about, but I kind of have always loved this idea of Deborah's new writers.
Yeah.
Because obviously there would be such a direct threat to Ava, the idea that she has been replaced. I mean, to Jimmy's point,
she has to replace her with 2. So it's a compliment.
Yeah. I wondered about that. I was like, it is interesting that like she kind of didn't want a writer when Ava was coming, and now to get writers, I was almost like, does that call into question her like comedic abilities or something?
I feel like though this does happen to people at a certain level. I feel like so many huge stand-ups who have like massive tours and schedules start working with writers. And I do think Ava broke the seal for Deborah, but we really wanted them to act as sort of like a new boyfriend or girlfriend for Deborah and to have that sort of threat to Ava.
Right. You run into your ex at a party and they're there with their new boyfriend or girlfriend.
And that being what tips that she's there.
Yeah.
The Black Crush unit.
Sorry,
Are you wearing black pashmina?
Yeah, my boss says I don't process onions well, so she gave me a bottle to wear every time I'm around her, but it's fine.
Yeah, it stinks. Are you working for Deborah Vance?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been writing for her for like a few months.
Yeah, she's winning Comedy Special of the Year.
I also remember talking a lot about what it is that when they are back together, they do that sort of heats things back up when they quote unquote fall back into bed. And one of the pitches was that they try and get a cookie because of your experience with the cookie.
That's right.
Right. That was a big. That was one of the thoughts.
I don't know how much about pitches, but there was one pitch that they were like in the in the hotel kitchen baking cookies.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
It was very rom-com-y.
Long before like the dress and your star appearance, which of course we'll get to.
Yeah.
It was,
I mean, that's why you're here.
Right. They were sneaking into the hotel kitchen and stealing because it was a DoubleTree and you get the free chocolate
Famously
chip cookies.
What happened?
I believe. Well, it happened to you.
I know.
I mean, but this sounds exactly like me. To Lucia, I'm like, what happened to me?
I was like denied a cookie or something.
Yeah.
Someone was like, that's only
it.
upon check-in or something. I tried to have another one, which is I think very typical at DoubleTree. It's like they're making them in these huge batches. Of course, you just go up to the desk and ask. I was there for 3 years. I mean, 3 days.
Oh my God! He lived in a DoubleTree for 3 years. Now that's a show.
I would love to live in that DoubleTree for 3 years. And I think the guy was like, "Sir, they're only upon check-in."
Right, and you hated him.
I of course did.
Yeah.
He hurt me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy they would be so strict about it.
And what's crazy is like a butterfly flaps his wings. By denying me that cookie, he then led me to pitch that they bake cookies.
That's
in the
exactly
kitchen,
right.
which could have potentially cost me an acting job.
Honestly, yeah, that's right.
And so,
oh wow, thank goodness we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that acting job.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
The gay bellhop.
I will say this. This is what I was going to reveal before we began recording, and I thought I'll save it for the pod. We did screen the first 2 episodes at South by Southwest, and I will say that it was a very warm audience, and it was a really fun experience, and watching with the crowd was so fun. And you absolutely got shrieks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, people really enjoyed
Shrieks
the scene.
upon seeing you, and then clapping as you
my
exited.
goodness.
Oh yes,
That
it
is
went
so
very
sweet.
well. It went very, very well.
That is so sweet.
Do you think your character, who is
Can we
named
say- can we say-
named Prion?
Thank you.
Oh my God,
His name is
Prion
I
the
think about it
bellhop.
every day that his name is Prion.
Yeah, Prion.
I'm so excited for the world to meet Prion.
Yes.
Can we remember where Prion came from and why?
The name?
Yes, I can, which is that I came up with it.
Wow. Okay. Very
because
generous.
I like to, and I've been thinking about this a lot. And
Oh.
actually, let's hash this out on the podcast.
I'm happy to.
Oof. Lean in, dear listener.
I like to get creative with character names. So Prion the bellhop. In another episode, we have a receptionist named Percasa. We come up with these names, and then recently, one of my co-showrunners brought to my attention that she
Could be either of us.
could be either, that like it to an actor, it's maybe what was
Dehumanizing?
Dehumanizing.
I can say when I stepped into the role of Prion, I felt completely human.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this is great. We have
Yeah,
right from
was-
the
but he
result.
was there for, I don't
but
know.
Right,
will
it's
say-
a little different. You were there for the creation.
I'm
of
not saying
Prion.
that it is dehumanizing for sure, but I can imagine somebody's like, I studied at theater. I finally got
went
an
to RADA.
agent. I went to RADA. I finally got, and I booked it. And the character's name is Porquesa. It's like
that's a good
Porcasa.
name.
Porcasa.
Okay, sorry, there was a Q in there, so that's why I went there.
Or like another one that I liked was Mornina in Paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay, so
exactly.
Paragraph is a unique name because I've never heard it used
So
for a
that-
person. So I think that's where your
Right. So
opinion
you
came
think
from.
that it's as an actor, you don't want to play a character named Paragraph.
or like
So that is dehumanizing because the
But
paragraph
I
isn't
think it's like, oh, who were you on Hacks? I was Bob. What? Who's Bob?
But
oh, you were
oftentimes
Paragraph.
We don't ever say their names, and
That's
that's
true.
the thing is it's not like you say Paragraph. They don't know that from Bob either.
Sure. But if you're looking at someone's IMDb, hey, should I cast this person? Oh, they played Paragraph in
I will
Hacks. That's
say-
going to stick in your brain more than they played Diane in Hacks.
and it's better than playing clerk.
And we have
or
continued.
bellhop.
Yeah.
And
So,
at the
I
end
mean,
of
my
the day,
God.
we have continued to do that.
Right.
I will say I
yes.
remember that.
Well-
I remember it wasn't like a. I'm gonna give him a crazy name. It was like we had decided on this bellhop character. Jen was typing at the time,
Yeah.
and she just wrote in Prion,
Yeah.
and it was very matter of
And
fact.
what did inspire Prion?
That you have to ask the muse.
Yeah, it felt like
what
a moment
episode
of,
are we having the muse on?
Yeah, it felt like Sharon Stone. It felt like a full channeling at that moment.
Yeah.
For you.
I was in a
spilling out
flow
of her.
state.
At this point, it is spilling out of her.
Yeah.
I'm sure the listeners have watched closely, but just to refresh, let's give a listen to the scene that Pat was in.
I need the cash up front. My pants stay on. Where is he?
Oh my God, no. No, I just had a quick question for you. Come on in.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mood.
Okay, this dress. What do you think?
Why are you asking me? Did you
Just-
work on it?
No, I just want to know honestly what you think. Honest opinion.
It's weird.
Okay.
Is that, yeah. I think
One might say like, it's ugly.
It's really ugly. I would
Yeah.
say it's really ugly.
Hey, okay, that was a very leading line of questioning. This dress is gorgeous. It was custom made for me.
Oh, on you. You would wear it. Oh, well, I actually think then that could be fierce, actually. I mean, that could be a sleigh.
What a moment.
What a moment.
What a moment to be led
Totally.
by Ava's character.
A lot of good improv by you.
Well,
in
you
this
know, I
scene.
got my start as an improviser.
That is true.
That is true, yeah.
I do think as like someone who, doesn't act very often and is more known perhaps like as a comedian or writer, I do think you almost have like, especially when it's a real just like comedy moment, like I do feel pressure to I'm someone who feels guilt no matter what. So like I do feel guilt if I don't add anything through improv. I'm like, okay, well, you said a line, like good job.
Wow, way to take it to actors.
But then if you improv, I'm like, well, that's disrespectful. Like or there's something that makes you feel crazy about like to me, and I'm not someone who acts a lot, so it's like all whatever. But like the way that you have to do the take so often, it's like if you improv something once and then you do it again, it feels like
do you want me to do that again?
Yeah, or it's like,
Right.
okay, now it feels like repitching a joke. or
Right,
something.
it's sort of
right.
humiliating because you're saying like, I thought this was funny when I did it the first time. I'm going to do it again.
Totally, and also because I don't act a ton, which I need to stop saying, like
Because I work constantly.
yeah, because it's just not true. I always forget when it's like not my take, you know what I mean, or it's like not yours. So like I'm always like improvising is like fully not like I'm just reading my lines for the other person, and so I forget that too.
Right.
That's actually good. Not being aware of the camera is good.
Yeah,
You don't want to be too aware.
totally.
And I feel like you, for the first, if I remember correctly, the first couple of times you were just doing it more scripted.
Yes.
And then we were kind of just like, what do you want to do? And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
And it made it better to talk about why she was asking. You know what I mean? Because it was a little bit too quick to be like, that's ugly. You know what I mean? It's sort of like you would tiptoe into the conversation. Like, why are you asking me this?
Totally.
Did you work on it?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
And you do want, yeah, totally.
And not written. Did you work on it? Is one of my favorite
Oh,
lines.
yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Did you work on it?
work on it is really fun.
What an interesting way to ask that.
Someone
That
just
was very early in shooting.
Yeah.
Because we do block shoot and we shoot things out of order on the show. And for instance, the very opening shot of season 3 was shot last, very recently. In fact,
really?
Like 8 weeks ago.
Very last shot of the whole season.
I saw that you had Elliot from Drag Race.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yes, we had many Deborah Vance
Incredible.
impersonators
Yeah.
who were up with us all night because we filmed that overnight in
wow. Like
Caesars.
5 in the morning.
I
and we
couldn't
had
do it.
we had like 400 extras. But your scene was filmed really early on.
Yeah.
Really,
so
really early on.
Fall
in
of
season
2022,
3.
I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
December.
Okay, there you go.
December,
Winter.
fall, into winter. And you know, the scene, Pat, that you're in is actually, you know, there was the cookie pitch. There was like a
Yes.
lot of pitches of what we also talked about them getting out and getting poutine or going to a comedy club. There was a lot
Male
of different like
strippers.
a male strip club. That's
Yeah.
right. That was one.
yeah.
Because
It was just-
Montreal is like a big hub for that.
Yeah, that's right. And so we talked a lot about the adventure they would have together. But ultimately, we were like, let's just keep them together. And it was really, I think, later in the writing process that we figured out the story around the dress.
Yeah.
And we were able to use the cutting off of sugar as a metaphor for what she had done to Ava, but also the dress was a great opportunity for us to say, oh, Ava's the only one who will speak truth to Deborah and say, no, this is ugly.
Yeah.
And there are all these yes men around her and saying, oh, they love her new clothes.
Oh my God. You know nothing about fashion. You dress like you're about to have lunch on a steel girder.
Hey, whatever. You can wear whatever you want.
Yeah, I know I can, and I will. You know, it's just sad that you're so wrong about this. I mean, everybody loves this dress. Damien, Marcus, my stylist, all of her assistants.
Everyone on your payroll.
Yeah, I thought the dress was such a I mean, Emperor's New Clothes type vibe, but it is such a thing in comedy where it's like just that scene where she's on stage and getting those laughs that are so like empty and anything.
Unearned.
It's so real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that I am there,
No.
but you do see it, and it is
Yeah.
like it's like it can't be fun for the person.
Yeah.
It can't be even fun for the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're just so hyped because that person's on that person's special they've seen, or whatever it is. Yeah. I think that was a really good addition. That was also a late addition.
Yeah.
The addition of Deborah getting easy laughs, people laughing at whatever she wanted or whatever she said, and then being restless at night and rearranging her pepper shakers.
Right.
That's one of my favorite scenes of the first episode.
Yeah, that was really
good. That was we didn't have that necessarily, and that is, Gene is so good with doing so little, like even with scenes without dialogue. And some of our favorite scenes are those scenes where you're just alone with Deborah, getting to see her in an intimate way that no one really gets to. But yeah, we didn't have that for a long time, and then we kind of were like, no, we're craving a scene where she is that scene. Like, it's crazy now to not have it, because I'm like, oh, it lets us into her POV and where she is emotionally and how this is a struggle for her. And it's I'm very happy we added it, because it really does a lot with not even that much dialogue.
Another thing I'd like to talk about is jail.
Oh, that's right. So.
Oh yeah, wow.
So wow.
We shot it.
Yeah. But very rarely.
That didn't make it in.
It's very, very rare that we shoot something that doesn't make it in, I feel. It's actually weird that on this show we usually shoot things and they end up in and we don't reshoot things. But we did shoot a scene where after seeing Deborah on top of the world, we smash cut to Ava behind bars. And what we learn is she's on set writing for On the Contrary, and they're doing a segment in a penitentiary. And you learn that she's kind of doing this like Daily Show style segment there. But the misdirect being for the audience, oh, Deborah's on a high and Ava's in jail. And ultimately it didn't really work.
The joke didn't work out because it's just like it's it's like
it's a visual joke.
Yeah.
A reveal joke is hard.
Yeah.
A cut to reveal joke I think is hard, yeah?
Well, I think also it's like it's a cut to reveal joke, but then that isn't actually what it is. And what it is this kind of unique, specific thing happening at this place. It was like, even if it was worth like such a huge laugh, it's still then you have to like walk it back and then redefine something else and then still try to get jokes in it, but it has to be quick. It's just kind of like all together. The scene, it wasn't that it wasn't well performed by our performers. It was just a lot to cover. And right at that time, it was like, we want to just get in with a joke and just set up where her life is.
And it was very funny to see her playing her Oculus. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Ava! Oh, shit, sorry. I was chopping the blocks as they were flying towards me, and they get louder as they gather in power. What's up, you guys?
Hi. It was very funny to see her playing an Oculus because we have seen a friend playing an Oculus and being filmed unbeknownst to him, and it's very funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It did make me want an Oculus.
Oh, that's
oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good
you
because
can borrow mine anytime you want.
But I fell for as someone who theoretically should have known that it was going to be a reveal joke. Completely fell for the reveal in the opening shot of Deborah.
Oh, you did?
I was like, this is Gene Smart.
That's so good. That's a great question.
I wouldn't have had that head anywhere. This is Gene Smart.
Okay, that's a great question to ask because it's interesting. You would know.
Yeah.
But
you wouldn't know if you...
We wonder often if the audience will suspect something because there's no dialogue. But it's also...
No, I will say I didn't suspect.
Wow.
And you knew.
And I knew. And I fully knew, yeah.
That's good to be that kind of viewer that you can just drop in and fully watch. That's good.
Yeah, totally.
I love that you were surprised by the reveal. So my question for you is, were you surprised by the casting of Winnie Landell when you saw...
I knew.
You did
But
know.
I that was something I had I forgot that she was in that scene.
Helen Hunt.
Yeah, Helen Hunt was in that scene.
Dame Helen Hunt.
Dame Helen Hunt.
I am Jimmy Lusac Jr. I'm Ava's manager and a huge fan of yours. Everything you've done at the network.
Jimmy Lusac's kid?
Yes.
I knew him. I fucked him once. After the divorce. Mine, not his. I don't know. Maybe his. We didn't talk much.
What year?
Have you seen the spicy tuna guy?
No.
She was so funny.
She's great.
She's really great, right?
I fucked your dad. I
Oh my
really
God.
laughed.
She was really
Yeah.
great. She's excellent in the role.
She's excellent because
Yeah.
she's so obviously comedically gifted. You know, she's like a sitcom star, but she's also an incredible dramatic actor, Oscar winner. And so she has like incredible like gravitas that like I think is necessary to play a network. Like she is a network executive
she's a good one.
people fear and respect. Yeah, she's one of the kind of most respected ones in the business in terms of the hacks.
And what was nice is Helen, having been on Mad About You and working in film and television for so long, I think really was like, oh, I know women like this or you know, executives like this, regardless of their gender. And so she was able to borrow from things that she's experienced in table reads or, you know, network pitches or big meetings with executives. And it was really good that she had, I think, a reference point for this kind of a character. She fully got it.
Yeah.
And she was very specific about what she wanted. She's like, I want to watch that I can reference. I want to always be doing something. She was very, very detailed and prepared about the things that this person would do and not really give people the time of day.
Right. The attention, the lack of attention to the people she was interacting with was a big thing for her.
Yeah.
It was so good just in those few moments. Like, it made me really excited.
Right.
Yeah.
She's in a conversation with you, but she's never actually in a conversation with you. She's doing like a million things.
She's like, what are you? She needs to know what you are. Give me what you are. Got it. Bye.
She wants to peg you, and then peg you as in know who you are, and then get out. Or peg you maybe. Yeah, you never know. I think it was keep watching, ladies and gentlemen. But I do think it was the interest in hors d'oeuvres was her, was it not?
I believe so.
I believe so. Yeah.
So you know, it's not that she was looking around the room for the more important comedian to talk to. She doesn't really care who's at JFL. She wanted
the spicy tuna.
Really badly. I relate to that in a big way.
Yeah, you're rooting for her in that moment.
Yeah, I'm rooting for her to get.
She's likable because she's also an underdog. In that, cater waiters are often hard to find.
Totally. I was being so funny at my cousin's wedding in December because every time a new pasta hors d'oeuvre came out, I kept taking it and then screaming to the whole cocktail hour, "This is special! This is special!"
I love that.
You guys should have been there.
And they're still married.
They're still married to this day, 4 months later.
Wow.
That's an MVP wedding guest. That's good.
There's so many really guest stars I'm looking forward to. Have you
revealed
them?
We've revealed a handful of them.
Yes, Christina Hendricks,
Christopher Lloyd,
Tony Goldwyn,
George Wallace, who people saw in this
That's
episode.
right.
Yeah.
George Wallace, who plays himself.
That's going to be an interesting thing because you're in the writer's room and sometimes we'll have cast the person as we're writing or like while we're doing it. And then other times as production starts and the writer's room ends, you're like, good luck, guys. Who's that going to be?
Yeah. I think this season specifically, probably because I had more, like 2 seasons that came out, there was a little bit more like, we might get this person, maybe this person could be this character, and like, what if they were, and how can you write towards that?
We do love writing for actors.
Yes.
So if we know that we can write, if you're going to say, I'm going to be on the show, we can write you better lines.
Yeah.
So try to guess what you might like to say.
If you're an actor who loves hacks and is listening to the podcast, follow up with your reps and say, I'd like to be on the show, and let them know early.
And Pat's a great example of we can write for you and your career will absolutely explode. Quadruple.
That's how the character Priyan came to be. Was you said, I wonder what Pat Regan might like.
I wonder
to play.
if we can get Pat Regan.
And I recused myself immediately.
But you did have fun.
What?
I'm asking, did you have fun?
I did have fun. I was so nervous.
Right.
You know,
the whole time?
Well, yeah, but like that's just how I am. But you know who was? It was
even seeing us, your family members.
I know, but I didn't want to disappoint.
It's so funny to put you on the spot. We make you comfortable. that sounds very.
And you know who was really helpful is Hannah.
Oh, good.
Was like
Hannah Einbinder.
Yeah,
she plays Ava.
She's like relaxed. She was giving you massages, inappropriate massages.
She was like, yeah, and I felt pressure to allow that. I did have fun. It was so fun.
Okay. Nervous fun, I guess. This has been the official Hacks podcast with Jen Statsky, Paul W. Downs, and myself, Lucia Aniello. The podcast is a production of Max and Pineapple Street Studios. Our executive producers are Gabrielle Lewis, Barry Finkel, and Jayanne Barry. Our producers are Melissa Slaughter and Ben Goldberg. Darby Maloney is our editor. This episode is mixed by Hannes Brown. Thanks, Hannes. Pineapple's head of sound and engineering is Raj Makija, and Pineapple's senior audio engineers are Marina Pais and Pedro Alvira. This episode was engineered by Javier Cruces. Thanks, Javier. You're cool. Special thanks to Kenya Reyes, Aaron Kelly, and Michael Gluckstadt from the Max podcast team for making our dreams come true. You can watch new and old episodes of Hacks on Max. Special thanks to Gene Smart and Pat Regan for joining us on the show. We'll be back tomorrow to dig into episode 2. Ciao for now.
I just want to say, for the record, I'm not a Tom Cruise guy, and I actually think leading man culture is really toxic, but I do want to see what this tastes like, strictly from an anthropological standpoint.